the quiet collapse, facing the nothingness. Have you ever felt it? That gnawing emptiness creeping into your mornings, seeping into the quiet moments, whispering that everything you've believed, worked for, and fought to preserve may mean nothing at all? It is not sadness, not depression exactly. It is a peculiar awareness that life's structures, the promises of meaning, purpose, morality, and progress are fragile, invented, and ultimately arbitrary. You move through the world performing rituals of significance, going to work, paying bills, loving, laughing, but somewhere, deep inside, a hollow voice asks the question no one teaches you to answer. Does it matter? This is the condition of modern nihilism, and it is more pervasive than you think. You are not alone. Millions feel this quiet erosion of meaning, even if they bury it under social media scrolls, late-night distractions, or the comforting rhythm of routine. And it is terrifying because it does not demand tears or panic. It is subtle, patient, and relentless. It teaches you that the ground beneath every moral certainty, every ambition, every attachment is provisional, that the universe does not owe you a story, and that your place in it is utterly contingent. And yet, within this stark revelation lies a paradoxical freedom. To see the emptiness, to confront the void without flinching, is the first step toward liberation. You no longer need to obey invisible scripts, no longer need to chase approval, no longer need to anchor yourself to illusions of purpose handed down by culture, religion, or society. Nihilism, at its deepest, is not a curse, it is a brutal gift. It offers clarity, honesty, and the terrifying, exhilarating permission to define your own existence, however fleeting, however fragile it may be. Number 1. Why so many people secretly feel nothing anymore. The rise of modern nihilism. Look around. You see people moving through life like shadows, their eyes flicking past everything that used to matter. Not despair exactly, not rage, but a quiet numbness that pervades every gesture. They laugh, they love, they argue, but inside, they feel almost nothing. This is modern nihilism, creeping not through obvious rebellion or cynicism, but as a quiet, almost imperceptible resignation to the futility of it all. Why do people feel nothing anymore? Because the structures we once relied upon, family, religion, politics, community, have fractured. They promised a story, a sense of belonging, a framework in which life had meaning. And now, with every institution exposed as imperfect, with every sacred certainty challenged, the mind recoils. We are left staring at a void, and the natural human response is not to jump, but to go numb. To protect ourselves, we cling to distraction, to habit, to the shallow affirmations of an always connected, always performing digital world. But the emptiness does not care for your distractions. It waits in the small silences, in the moments between meetings, in the quiet hours of the night when your phone is off, and the noise of the world falls away. And in those moments, you sense the truth. Nothing really matters. Not the promotions, not the possessions, not the accolades, not even the love you fight to secure. Everything is provisional. Everything is fleeting. Everything is, in the grandest sense, optional. This realization terrifies most people, which is why they avoid it. They fill their lives with noise, with consumption, with activity, pretending that significance is real, if only it is busy, loud, visible. But to confront the nothingness is to touch freedom and terror simultaneously. The modern nihilist is one who has felt the quiet collapse of meaning and refused to turn away. They see the emptiness for what it is, and in doing so, they begin to understand the shape of life unbound by pretense, unanchored by illusions. The rise of this feeling is not a societal failing. It is a reflection of clarity. Those who feel nothing are not broken. They are awake. They see that the grand narratives, the promises of meaning, the sacred scripts of belonging are human constructs, not universal truths. And in seeing this, they are offered a choice: to despair or to begin the terrifying work of creating their own significance in a world that offers none. Number 2, the terrifying freedom of nihilism. Why nothing matters, and why that saves you. Have you ever felt a sudden, dizzying clarity, a moment where all the rules, the hierarchies, the structures you have spent your life obeying seem to vanish? It is terrifying. It is vertigo. It is the moment you realize that nothing you have ever clung to, believed in, or sacrificed for ultimately matters in the grand scheme. Every title, every achievement, every moral compass, every dream optional, ephemeral, fragile. And for most people, this realization would shatter them. But for those who survive it, who meet the abyss without flinching, something remarkable happens. Freedom. The freedom of nihilism is not the absence of consequence, nor is it a reckless abandon. It is the liberation from illusions, from the weight of expectation, from the invisible shackles imposed by culture, society, and your own internalized fears. When nothing is guaranteed, when nothing is inherently meaningful, every choice becomes your own. Every moment becomes both terrifying and sacred. And in that paradox lies power. Most people fear nothingness because they mistake it for emptiness. But nothingness, in the deepest sense, is not a void to fear. It is a canvas, an opportunity to act without the invisible pressures of a story that was never theirs. When you see that life has no inherent purpose, you are confronted with the unrelenting responsibility to define your own. And it is this responsibility, not some external script, that finally wakes the human spirit from its slumber. This freedom is terrifying because it demands authenticity. To live in the light of nihilism is to acknowledge that all external sources of meaning, the job you cling to, the relationships you maintain out of habit, the moral codes you follow blindly, are constructed. They are not universal truths. And if you continue to anchor yourself in them, you are consenting to a life half-lived, pretending that significance exists where it does not. Yet once embraced, this terrifying freedom also saves you. It saves you from the futile pursuit of validation, the endless chasing of a narrative that never belonged to you. It saves you from the despair of clinging to illusions that cannot hold. And paradoxically, it allows you to find depth, joy, and even love, not because these things are guaranteed to matter, but because you choose them in full awareness of their impermanence. To live in the freedom of nihilism is to be awake. It is to drink deeply from the raw experience of existence, to feel without expectation, to act without promise. It is to recognize that every moment, every interaction, every thought is both trivial and infinite, insignificant and profound. The world is not meaningless because it offers nothing. It is meaningful because you choose to engage with it, fully, consciously, fearlessly. In this light, nihilism is not despair. It is a radical honesty, a refusal to be seduced by comforting lies. It is the courage to face the void and, in doing so, to step into life with unshakable clarity. The terrifying freedom of nihilism is both the end of old illusions and the beginning of a life defined entirely on your own terms. It is the revelation that the collapse of meaning is not the collapse of life. It is the unlocking of it. Number 3. Why smart people end up feeling empty. Have you ever noticed that intelligence, insight, and acute perception often come with a price? The smarter someone is, the more they notice, the more they question, the more fragile the constructs around them appear. They see the facades, the rituals, the moralized performances that society offers as proof of meaning, and they see through them. They observe the machinery behind promises of fulfillment and success, and it all looks hollow. This is why intelligent people often feel the pull of nihilism before others, not because they are weak, not because they are pessimistic, but because clarity comes at a cost. To perceive reality without distortion is to see the contingency of all things: morality, purpose, status, love, and even happiness itself. And this perception, while liberating in theory, is heavy in practice. It isolates the mind, it fractures complacency, it challenges attachment. The emptiness felt by the intelligent is a symptom of consciousness itself. Awareness pierces the veil. The rituals, the narratives, the constructed hierarchies of meaning, they are all laid bare. Where others find comfort, the thoughtful see impermanence. Where others feel security, the insightful feel the tremor of contingency. Where others find certainty, the intelligent feel vertigo. Yet, this psychological reality is not a condemnation. It is an opportunity. When you understand the emptiness, you are freed from illusions that enslave the majority. You no longer have to obey scripts that were never yours. You can question everything, challenge norms, and act deliberately. You are spared from the comfort of lies, even if you must bear the weight of clarity. The emptiness, paradoxically, can become fertile ground. In its starkness, it allows the intelligent to build meaning consciously, rather than inherit it blindly. The recognition of futility does not necessitate despair. It demands creativity. It demands courage. It demands the forging of significance from raw experience, from understanding, from conscious engagement with the fleeting moments that constitute life. However, this process is not easy. It is lonely. The intelligent nihilist watches others perform rituals, chase illusions, and engage in collective delusions without fully participating. They are often misunderstood, labeled as cynical, cold, or detached. They experience a quiet isolation that is both painful and clarifying. And yet, in that isolation, they cultivate depth, insight, and authenticity. The psychology of nihilism teaches that emptiness is not a void to fear, it is a lens to see clearly. It teaches that meaning is not inherited, but created, and that the courageous mind can embrace both the despair and the potential inherent in life as impermanence. Intelligence, when paired with nihilistic insight, allows one to navigate life consciously rather than blindly, to act deliberately rather than react, and to engage deeply rather than superficially. In essence, the emptiness felt by smart people is not a flaw, it is a mirror. It reflects the truth that life's meaning is provisional, that certainty is rare, and that the world offers no guarantees. To feel this emptiness is to recognize the opportunity, to define your own significance, to engage fully with the transient, chaotic, and miraculous reality around you, and to construct a life worthy of conscious attention, even when the universe offers no inherent purpose. And so, the psychology of nihilism is not a despairing observation, it is a call to awareness, to courage, to creativity, and to the radical act of choosing what matters to you in a universe that does not care. It is the invitation to inhabit your own mind fully, to embrace both clarity and freedom, and to walk through the void with eyes wide open, not in fear, but in possibility. Number 4, the nihilist's guide to surviving society, that every rule, expectation, and custom is designed to make you conform, consume, and comply. For the nihilist, society is a complex machine, a stage full of actors performing roles that do not belong to them, chasing illusions of purpose, status, and meaning. And for those who see through it, surviving this world requires more than compliance. It requires strategy, clarity, and a radical form of self-possession. Society, at its core, offers the promise of stability and reward. Work hard, obey, produce, marry. Follow the rhythms of the system, and you will be safe. You will matter, or at least appear to matter. But the nihilist sees the truth beneath the surface. These promises are conditional, fragile, and often hollow. The world does not guarantee reward. The world does not guarantee recognition. The world does not guarantee justice. The rules are arbitrary, the hierarchies constructed, and the accolades fleeting. To survive, the nihilist must detach from the illusions while remaining engaged with the reality. This detachment is not cynicism, it is clarity. It is the ability to navigate without succumbing to the emotional seductions of status, honor, or approval. It is the skill of playing the game without becoming owned by it. It is recognizing that every social expectation, every moral dictum, every cultural script is optional, and choosing which ones serve your existence and which ones enslave it. The nihilist understands that survival in society requires both observation and discretion. You must read the rules, understand the pressures, and anticipate the moves of those who cling to illusions. You must cultivate skills, knowledge, and connections, but always on your own terms. You must engage in the performative aspects of life when necessary, while never surrendering your awareness of the underlying emptiness. This approach can be isolating. Others may see you as detached, cold, or uncommitted. You may be criticized for refusing to follow the herd blindly. But the reward is profound: the ability to act freely, to choose engagements consciously, to avoid the traps of society that snare the unobservant. You survive not by blindly obeying, but by understanding, adapting, and choosing. The nihilist's guide to society is simple in principle, but complex in execution. Recognize the emptiness, see the illusions, and then act with intentionality. Avoid entanglements that demand belief in false purpose. Pursue engagements that enhance your life consciously. Do not surrender to the comforting delusions that others cling to, for they will bind you. And above all, cultivate a mental independence that allows you to witness society without being consumed by it. In this survival lies liberation. The nihilist is not merely avoiding pain or disappointment. They are cultivating clarity, resilience, and sovereignty. They navigate a chaotic, indifferent, and often absurd world with eyes wide open, understanding that the structures around them are neither inherently oppressive nor inherently benevolent. They simply exist. And in understanding this, the nihilist achieves a form of freedom that the unobservant cannot know. The freedom to choose, to act, and to exist authentically, even within the confines of a society that does not care. Number 5. Why Gen Z is falling into existential. The millennials and Gen Zers who scroll endlessly, compare obsessively, and consume without pause. There is a profound sense of emptiness, a pervasive question that hovers in the background. Why bother? Why strive? Why hope? For a generation born into both abundance and disillusionment, nihilism is not a philosophy, it is a survival mechanism. Gen Z sees the world in its stark reality. They witness environmental collapse, political theater, economic instability, and the fragility of social contracts. They experience the pressures of achievement, visibility, and perfection amplified by digital technology, where every moment is scrutinized, every success measured, every failure broadcast. And in this environment, traditional narratives of purpose, security, and meaning crumble. For many, nihilism emerges as both shield and compass. It is a way to cope with the absurdity and arbitrariness of existence. It is the recognition that the grand narratives, career success, social status, romantic ideals are constructed, fragile, and often unfulfilling. And once this truth is confronted, it cannot be ignored. The mind begins to question everything, from societal expectations to personal ambitions, from morality to identity itself. But within this existential confrontation lies opportunity. The nihilism that permeates Gen Z consciousness is not merely despair, it is a space for radical clarity. It forces a questioning of assumptions, a reevaluation of priorities, and a liberation from inherited illusions. When life is stripped of externally imposed meaning, every action, every choice, every moment becomes a chance to define significance on one's own terms. Yet, this path is treacherous. Many flounder in apathy, anxiety, or paralysis, overwhelmed by the void. Others channel their awareness into creativity, activism, or profound self-discovery. The difference lies in engagement. Do you succumb to the emptiness, or do you inhabit it fully, with conscious intent? Those who survive and thrive are the ones who recognize that the collapse of old narratives is not the collapse of life itself. It is a liberation, a call to construct meaning consciously, to act with awareness, and to embrace the freedom inherent in nothingness. Gen Z's flirtation with nihilism also reflects a broader societal shift. The old structures, religion, career paths, traditional morality no longer provide the security they once did. Technology, globalization, and social change had dismantled familiar reference points. And when the scaffolding falls away, the individual is left with the raw, unfiltered reality of existence. For many, this is terrifying. For a few, it is awakening. In the end, the rise of nihilism among Gen Z is both symptom and opportunity. It signals the collapse of outdated illusions and the chance for a new engagement with life, one that is self-directed, conscious, and free. The young are learning, often painfully, that purpose is not given, meaning is not inherited, and security is never guaranteed. But in embracing this truth, they may discover a radical form of autonomy, the ability to choose, to act, and to live fully, aware of the void, yet unafraid to step into it. Number 6. The dark truth about meaning nihilism explained simply. Have you ever paused and asked yourself what all this effort is for? Why we chase careers, relationships, status, possessions, and then felt an emptiness when the answers seemed hollow or unconvincing? This is the reality that nihilism illuminates. Meaning, as we have been taught to seek it, is largely a construct. It is a fragile scaffolding built by culture, tradition, and habit, and it often collapses the moment we look at it too closely. Human beings are natural storytellers. We crave narratives that tie beginnings to endings, that assign value to suffering, that justify our struggles. Civilization itself is a vast collective story. Nations, religions, institutions, even families, all are designed to produce a sense of meaning. But the nihilist sees past these comforting tales to the raw, unvarnished truth. The universe does not care, and the moral and existential frameworks we inherit are provisional at best. To confront this truth is disorienting. It challenges the very foundations on which we have built our lives. It forces a reckoning with the arbitrariness of achievement, the contingency of success, and the illusions of permanence. And yet, within this confrontation lies a paradoxical liberation. When we understand that meaning is not inherent, we are freed from the burden of externally imposed significance. We can stop performing, stop pretending, and stop measuring our lives against narratives that never truly belong to us. Nihilism, in this light, is not despair, it is clarity. It allows us to examine our lives with precision, to ask, which values, which purposes, which goals do I choose for myself, knowing they are not demanded by the universe? To live under this understanding is to engage with life consciously, fully, and authentically. Every joy, every sorrow, every choice becomes ours in a way that is impossible under the illusion of externally granted meaning. Yet, embracing this clarity is not without risk. The absence of intrinsic meaning can feel like a void, an abyss that threatens to consume the unprepared. The uninitiated may succumb to nihilistic despair, floating in a sea of disconnection, apathy, or anger. But those who navigate it intentionally discover a radical freedom, the ability to create significance, to act without the compulsion of inherited narratives, and to recognize that life's value is not given, it is made. The dark truth about meaning is that it is optional, provisional, and fragile. And when we accept this, we do not collapse, we awaken. We can focus on what matters to us, not what we are told should matter. We can cultivate experiences, relationships, and projects that resonate with our own understanding, rather than perform roles designed for the convenience of others. Nihilism strips the world bare, revealing emptiness, but in that emptiness lies the space to build consciously, deliberately, and courageously. Number 7. How people lose all meaning. The quiet collapse of purpose. Where once there was passion, motivation, or curiosity, there now exists only a quiet emptiness, a sense that nothing matters, that nothing will make a difference. This is the phenomenon that nihilism often uncovers. The gradual collapse of purpose under the weight of reality as indifference. Loss of meaning is rarely sudden. It creeps in silently, like a fog rolling over a city at dawn. It begins with doubt, then expands into disillusionment. Careers that promised fulfillment feel hollow. Relationships that seemed essential lose their vibrancy. Ideals that once inspired action now appear arbitrary. And in this vacuum, the mind begins to question everything. Why strive? Why endure? Why care? This collapse is not a moral failing. It is the natural consequence of recognizing the universe's indifference. Humanity seeks patterns, stories, and significance, and when these fail, the collapse follows. The nihilist sees this not as tragedy alone, but as a truth of existence. We are finite, fragile, and alone in a cosmos that offers neither guarantee nor reason. And the sooner we confront this reality, the sooner we can engage with it honestly, rather than being deceived by comforting fictions. Yet, even as meaning dissolves, there is an opportunity. The quiet collapse of purpose is also the collapse of pretense. It strips away illusions, exposing what is real, the raw, immediate experience of being alive. Without externally imposed goals or moral frameworks, each moment becomes a space to act consciously. Each choice is no longer dictated by expectation, tradition, or fear. It is ours alone. The danger, of course, is apathy. When nothing seems to matter, the mind can retreat into avoidance, indulgence, or distraction. Many drift through this state without realizing the freedom it offers, mistaking the void for despair rather than potential. But those who understand nihilism learn to inhabit the void intentionally. They accept that life has no inherent purpose. And in that acceptance, they discover the power to define their own path. This collapse is also a lesson in resilience. It teaches that life's value is not granted, it is claimed. It is not received, it is made. And the process of rebuilding significance from the ashes of collapsed purpose is, paradoxically, one of the most authentic and profound forms of existence. The quiet collapse is not the end. It is the threshold, the space in which one can awaken to self-directed life. The story of lost meaning is universal. It touches the brilliant and the ordinary, the young and the old, the hopeful and the weary. It reminds us that the narratives we cling to are temporary, that the world is indifferent, and that the ultimate authority over our lives is ourselves. Nihilism does not remove responsibility, it illuminates it. When purpose collapses, we are forced to engage, to create, and to define. And in doing so, we find a freedom that is impossible within imposed meaning. Number 8. When life stops feeling. This disorienting sensation is more common than most admit. It is one of the hidden symptoms of nihilism, a slow erosion of perceived reality when the structures that once provided meaning begin to crumble. In a culture obsessed with productivity, success, and constant stimulation, this detachment often goes unnoticed. People move through routines mechanically, obeying schedules, consuming media, and performing social roles, all while feeling a subtle but persistent disconnection. The sense of unreality may start as a fleeting moment, a pause in which the colors seem muted, the voices distant, or your own actions feel strangely foreign. Over time, these moments accumulate, creating a profound sense of alienation. This symptom of nihilism is not a disorder, it is a truth. The human mind craves purpose, pattern, and significance. When it recognizes that these structures are arbitrary, fragile, or illusory, the cognitive dissonance can manifest as detachment. Life begins to feel like a dream or a simulation in which the familiar loses its substance. Relationships, achievements, and experiences, once vivid and important, appear as performances, rehearsed and hollow. The world is no longer convincing because the stories we relied upon to interpret it have lost their authority. The emotional consequences can be severe. Anxiety, apathy, and despair often accompany the sense of unreality. Decisions feel meaningless, efforts pointless, and connections tenuous. Those who feel this may withdraw, numbing themselves through distraction, indulgence, or compulsive engagement with shallow pleasures. But nihilism, if approached consciously, can also be a doorway to awareness. Recognizing the unreality of imposed meaning opens the possibility of choosing what is real for oneself. Paradoxically, when life stops feeling real, one gains the chance to reconstruct it deliberately. Freed from the tyranny of convention and expectation, you can experiment with ways of being that are authentic to your own perception. Actions, decisions, and interactions are no longer dictated by inherited scripts or societal pressure. They are opportunities to engage consciously with the immediate moment. The detachment itself becomes a tool, a lens through which the illusory nature of life's narratives is revealed. The challenge lies in navigating this void without succumbing to despair. The uninitiated may feel lost, isolated, and powerless. But the initiated, those who understand nihilism as a framework for conscious engagement, use this detachment to strip life to its essentials. They examine desires, motives, and beliefs, questioning everything until only what resonates with their authentic self remains. In this process, unreality transforms from a symptom of collapse into a signpost of awakening. The hidden symptom of detachment is ultimately a call to presence. When life feels unreal, you are invited to inhabit it fully, deliberately, and intentionally. Every sensory detail, every interaction, every choice becomes an arena for conscious participation. The world may remain indifferent, and narratives may remain provisional, but your engagement is your own. Nihilism, in this sense, is not despair, it is liberation. The collapse of perceived reality reveals the raw canvas upon which life can be painted deliberately, creatively, and with profound clarity. This state, though unsettling, fosters deep insight. Those who learn to inhabit the unreality do not become passive observers. They become active architects of experience. The collapse of the familiar is a crucible, forging awareness, discernment, and self-determination. The symptoms of nihilism are, in effect, invitations to confront, to understand, and to engage with life in a manner unmediated by illusions. When life stops feeling real, you finally have the opportunity to make it real for yourself. Number 9. Why you can't feel motivated anymore. This is not laziness. It is the unavoidable consequence of recognizing or subconsciously feeling the emptiness of meaning. Nihilism exposes the illusion of significance, and when significance is undermined, the mechanisms that generate motivation falter. Motivation, at its core, depends on belief. Belief in the value of goals, the worth of effort, and the possibility of meaningful outcomes. When nihilism undermines these beliefs, energy dissipates. We may continue performing tasks mechanically, but the spark that once made effort compelling is gone. We realize, on some level, that the ends are arbitrary, that approval is fleeting, and that success is ultimately inconsequential. This realization can be liberating or paralyzing. Many respond to this void with avoidance. They seek distractions, indulgences, and temporary pleasures to fill the vacuum left by the collapse of purpose. Social media, entertainment, substances, and compulsive consumption become anesthetics, dulling the awareness that nothing matters inherently. Others retreat into cynicism or anger, projecting their dissatisfaction outward rather than confronting the internal cause. In both cases, the mind reacts to the nihilistic insight with instinctive self-preservation, numbing the pain of awareness. Yet, within this trap lies a hidden opportunity. Recognizing the source of lost motivation allows for conscious re-engagement. Without the tyranny of imposed significance, one can cultivate a new self-directed sense of purpose. Motivation becomes intrinsic rather than extrinsic, arising not from societal expectation or narrative illusion, but from the immediate experience of action itself. The joy of movement, the clarity of focus, the intensity of engagement, these become sufficient. Nihilism teaches that the value of life is not granted, it is created. Motivation, therefore, is not about external reward, but about intentionality. Every action, no matter how small, becomes a statement of self-determination. To write a line, to lift a hand, to speak a word, is to assert existence in the face of cosmic indifference. The nihilist trap is not permanent. It is a threshold. Crossing it requires awareness, discipline, and the courage to act despite the apparent futility of effort. The most profound aspect of lost motivation is its honesty. When we can no longer be fooled by superficial goals, we confront ourselves without pretense. What do we want when nothing is required of us? What is worth doing when all outcomes are provisional? These questions are terrifying, but necessary. They strip away social expectation, habit, and obligation, leaving only the raw self. And in this rawness, action gains clarity and freedom. The nihilism trap is a paradox. In losing the old sources of motivation, one gains the potential for unshackled choice. Actions are no longer dictated by external pressures. They emerge from deliberate alignment with personal values, sensory experience, and conscious engagement. Motivation becomes a practice, a discipline, and a manifestation of autonomy. The realization that nothing matters can transform from a prison into a launchpad, propelling life with intensity, authenticity, and clarity that the naive pursuit of external meaning could never achieve. The trap is seductive. It seduces the uninitiated into inertia, disillusionment, and despair. But it is also a teacher, revealing the essential truth that effort, purpose, and engagement are human constructs, malleable and self-directed. To understand this is to reclaim the most fundamental aspect of existence, the freedom to act, to create, and to live intentionally. Motivation is not lost. It is waiting to be redefined. And those who do redefine it, who act consciously in the face of existential indifference, discover a vitality, power, and depth of life inaccessible to those who cling to inherited illusions. Inclusion. We arrive at the end of this journey through the stark, cold, and unflinching landscape of nihilism, and we are confronted with a single, unsettling, and ultimately liberating truth. Nothing is guaranteed, nothing inherently matters, and yet within that emptiness lies the rawest, most potent opportunity for freedom. The world you inhabit, with its noise, distractions, and imposed meanings, is not a map of some grand, preordained purpose. It is a mirror, reflecting back only what you choose to place within it. And the realization of this is both terrifying and exhilarating. The nihilist does not suffer from despair because life is meaningless. The nihilist suffers because most people refuse to see that life has no inherent meaning. Society offers comforting illusions, the promise of achievement, the sanctity of identity, the security of belonging, the divine order of fate. These illusions hold us in a soft, hypnotic prison. They lull us into the belief that we are part of a story that has already been written, that the rules are fixed, that our suffering and our striving serve some cosmic purpose. The truth is far more terrifying. There is no story, there are no rules. And your suffering exists solely because you live, because you feel, because you act in a world that does not notice, does not care, and will never reward you simply for existing. And yet, this very recognition, this naked confrontation with reality, is where the ultimate freedom resides. When you realize that the universe owes you nothing, that your purpose is not handed down by tradition, by authority, or by God, you also realize that you can create your own purpose. You are the artist of your own meaning, the architect of your own life, the sole custodian of what matters to you. Nihilism strips away the comforting scaffolding. Yes, but in its place, it leaves an open, uncharted expanse, a canvas that is both daunting and exhilarating. To live in this understanding is not easy. It demands courage, relentless honesty, and the willingness to stare into the void without flinching. It requires that you shed the illusions of status, success, and societal validation, and confront the quiet emptiness that lies beneath all cultural narratives. Fear will rise. Loneliness will rise. You will feel untethered, as though the ground has vanished beneath your feet. But this is precisely the crucible in which clarity, resilience, and authenticity are forged. The nihilist, in facing the abyss, discovers the paradoxical truth that liberation exists only when the illusions fall away, when the inherited meanings are abandoned, and when life is experienced as a raw, unmediated phenomenon. Through the lens of nihilism, every human interaction, every societal expectation, every ambition becomes optional. The chains of conformity, of comparison, of obligation dissolve under the heat of unflinching perception. You are no longer required to fit into preordained molds. You are free to construct your own framework of significance, however fragile, however temporary, however beautifully absurd it may be. This freedom is not easy. It demands constant engagement with uncertainty, with impermanence, and with the chaotic, indifferent pulse of existence itself. But within this chaos, there is profound beauty. The meaningless universe becomes a playground. Every choice becomes magnified, every experience intensified. Pleasure and pain, love and loss, creation and destruction, all take on a sharper, more poignant resonance when the illusion of inherent meaning is removed. To embrace nihilism is to embrace life with the full weight of consciousness. To recognize that every sensation, every thought, every act of courage, however fleeting, is an act of defiance against emptiness itself. The nihilist's path is solitary, yet paradoxically connected. When you release the illusions that bind you to performative social scripts, you begin to perceive the same raw truth in others. You recognize that everyone is navigating the same void, each seeking or creating their own purpose amidst a universe that will never hand it to them. Empathy, connection, and compassion arise not from prescribed norms, but from shared vulnerability. The awareness that life is intrinsically devoid of meaning does not lead to despair if it is paired with the courage to construct your own. Instead, it becomes the fertile ground for authentic relationships, authentic experiences, and authentic living. This is the ultimate lesson of nihilism. It is not a doctrine of despair, but a philosophy of liberation. To confront the emptiness and accept it fully is to gain the clarity to live intentionally, to act decisively, to love without pretense, to create without expectation, and to embrace life with the fierce, uncompromising intensity that only comes when the veil of illusion is removed. In the absence of cosmic purpose, every moment becomes precious, every decision meaningful, and every act an expression of raw, unmediated existence. Nihilism does not provide comfort. It does not offer guarantees. It does not give you a map to success or a script to happiness. But it provides something infinitely more valuable, the freedom to face life as it truly is, and in doing so, to choose how you will engage with it. You are no longer a pawn of societal expectation, a slave to fear, or a prisoner of inherited beliefs. You are, in the starkest and most profound sense, sovereign over your own experience. The abyss may still gaze back, but in gazing into it, you find that the terror it evokes is not a prison, it is a mirror. A mirror reflecting your own capacity for courage, your own power to define, your own agency to live fully. The void does not condemn, it reveals. And in that revelation, the lost find themselves, not saved by meaning, not delivered by destiny, but awakened by the stark, unflinching recognition that the only meaning that exists is the one you are willing to claim, and the only life that matters is the one you are willing to live, moment by moment, choice by choice, with absolute honesty and fearless presence. The nihilist truth is a liberation that few dare to accept. But those who do, who embrace the emptiness and step boldly into it, discover the paradoxical gift of existence. When nothing is guaranteed, everything becomes possible. And in that boundless potential, you find the ultimate freedom to create, to love, to experience, and to live with a clarity that transcends illusion, a courage that defies fear, and a presence that celebrates the fragile, fleeting, and infinitely precious reality of being alive.